What's It Worth with Andrew Ford from SARASOTA. So each month Andrew's going to be coming to you live with What's It Worth. So here he is, Andrew Ford.
Hi, Janet. How are you?
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
Today's inaugural show, we're thinking of doing a program on what's it worth, current market values that we have in today's art and antique market. These change on a daily basis, yearly. Certain fads are in, different things are in and out. We brought a few objects with us today to talk about. I figured we'd first talk about how we got into the business, how we decided to do some of these things.
That's right, because this was not the plan for you to go into an
this
antique
is true.
business, right?
Very true. I grew up in the business, went on to get a marketing degree in college, but eventually got back into the business due to some important estates that we found here in Sarasota, which is fertile ground for acquiring antiques and art. It's really sort of a mecca for art and has been ever since the Ringlings began their home in 1926, built by Owen Burns, which is Burns Court, where we have our shop, Sarasota Trading. So we thought we'd bring in a few things today to talk about. We brought some porcelains from the Hoi An Hoard collection, which is the largest underwater salvage collection ever found in the late 1990s after a large storm typhoon that came in Southeast Asia. One of the barges that was diving for shards of porcelain, they found an area they associated with a wreck over the years, and these pieces were finding their way to markets in Hanoi, London, Tokyo, some of the big, Four Dragon countries themselves, and eventually, after the storm passed, APPRAISal, which is a salvage through the Commonwealth of Vietnam, started sending divers down to find all these pieces, and these are just some of the 80 or 90,000 pieces which were brought up.
So these are over 500 years old.
These were underwater for 500 years, undisturbed for over 500 years. These are all Ming Dynasty porcelains.
And now they're at Sarasota Trading. Amazing, absolutely amazing.
Here's another piece that you'll find. You'll see some pieces were cleaned heavily. This is early blue and white. This was vivid, bright blue and white porcelain at one point. After 500 years under the sea, you see the changes that have occurred. Here are the barnacles that you see on the bottom of this. And these pieces were widely sought. Most of these originated in China, but some came from export countries just west of China, Cambodia, Vietnam, and some of the Chinese potters had moved there to create the different styles of pottery. You see a very simple form here. This is more what's understood to be Vietnamese pottery from the late 14th and 15th centuries. Very simple, very little decoration, unlike the dragon-style bowl that you see here, which is vivid blue and white colors. This is probably a 17th century bowl. Also, you'll see the mark, if I can show this to the camera. This is an export stamp. To take any of the antiquities out of China, Vietnam today, there are strict laws allowing that. And each one of these pieces has to be identified, stamped, and numbered and cataloged essentially before leaving the country. So these are some of the objects that we will be finding at our auction. We have the auction, Sarasota Estate Auction, and these pieces are some of the pieces that have been brought to us to be put in a future auction.
Wow, now this is one of my favorite pieces. Tell us just a little bit about this.
It's an interesting porcelain on plaque. This is actually a classical image, probably taken from Pompeian ruins originally. This is a typical 4x6 or 5x7 size in an original gilded frame. 19th century painting by academically trained artists that were doing figure work. The beauty of it is it's on porcelain. So it stays this way, it'll look this way 100, 200, 300 years down the road. It doesn't age like a canvas would. So the work is very tight.
Wow,
it can be very beautifully done.
Beautiful. Now this box that's right here, I saw you get really excited over that this week.
When I first met this box, I was very excited, I have to admit. What you're looking at is a monumental dresser box, Japanese dresser box. This is signed, lower right. This is made in the Edo period in Japan. Workshops in Tokyo were doing mixed metal work. This is fine gold and rose gold, and the feathers, gold cranes that you see here. Signed, lower right, with actually a large chop in here that's also inlaid in gold. Very rare size box. We were very pleased to get this. This will be offered in our January sale, which is typically our once-a-year Asian sale that we have here. This, again, was a very expensive box, owned probably bespoke piece. This was custom made for a particular client and somebody of real note, maybe a high court figure or someone in the 19th century in Japan. This would have cost the wage of 100 workers.
Wow.
It's the most amazing piece to see.
So another telephone call I get every day, well, lots of them, is people actually move here to Paradise, Florida, and they bring all their wares with them, and then they want to downsize. So they phone up and they want to know what can they do with all these amazing antiques that they've brought with them. So what would you recommend that people do when they're downsizing?
First we like to check with them and find out what they're trying to achieve. Sometimes this is a cash raising event where they need money for a certain thing. Some people are just, as you say, downsizing and clearing out. There's a few different vehicles that we use for selling these objects. We have, of course, our retail shop downtown Sarasota Trading, 522 South Pineapple Avenue. That's an open shop 6 days a week. It's been there for over 30 years. But with more international type objects like these, they translate better at auction. Our auctions, we have over 1 million viewers at our auction. It's global these days. Our last few auctions, we've sold to as many as 40 countries. So anyone who's transacted on a piece of Ming porcelain over the past 5 years, we will send them an email and let them know that we have this collection. It's a great way to get the word out there, both from a buying and a selling perspective.
And then one night a month we have the evaluation night, where people can come and get a free appraisal on anything that they've got. That's a great night.
It's really part of this What's It's Worth episode. We have appraisal night at the shop. People can bring certain things, mostly smaller objects. I would suggest bringing the larger objects, a little difficult to get in and out of the gallery. But yes, we're there for free verbal appraisals, and we can give them ideas how they might go about selling these objects if that was something they had.
And that is a fun night. We have lots of fun on those evenings down at Sarasota Trading.
It's also an open wine tasting, and we have lots of events down there.
And for those that know me, because I know quite a few people here, they know that I'm a child of the Most High. And right now, I'm actually sat on the King's chair. This is really amazing. So, King George VI, this is actually his chair, isn't it?
This is a George VI coronation chair. I believe his coronation was in 1897. And he was, of course, predecessor of King Edward VIII, and his successor was Elizabeth II.
Wow.
George VI was actually a very well thought of king, and he was the last emperor of India. A lot of people don't know this. India was, of course, one of the colonies that the English were involved in. He was the last emperor of India.
Wow. And we actually have a pair, but they are sold.
They are indeed sold.
Sorry about that.
It's very true.
Sorry about that. Now, I brought something along for the ladies, just something little for the ladies. This is the cutest thing. Now, we've all seen these beautiful purses where they have a mirror inside, which it does. But this one actually has a little comb. Just look at this. It's amazing. Isn't that adorable?
This was an evening bag, a needlepoint evening bag that women would take out. Wasn't meant really to carry much, possibly a little makeup, maybe a little billfold of sorts, but it was for taking out in the evening and heavily adorned with the gold or high doré bronze.
I love it.
And around 1920, 1930, in the cities, Paris, London, New York, certainly, you would have seen these things. They would have been very in vogue at the time to be showing off really what you had on. Today it seems like the purse, it seems to be this large accessory.
Shopping bag.
This is a turn of the century purse, and this is, showed mostly the needlework that was done and the beautiful accessories.
Even the size of the comb. I mean, how would you...
It was a traveling
comb your hair with that.
Those
That's
were made of
pretty
tortoiseshell.
amazing.
Those were originally tortoiseshell.
I love that. The other thing is we're going to have coming up is Antonio Cranio.
Absolutely. We'll have an exhibition of his work.
Yeah, of his work, which we've got right here.
There are a few behind us, as you see, these vertical contemporary paintings by the artist Antonio Cranio, member of the Art Students League in New York. Very well known. He's in corporate collections all over the United States and Europe. Works mostly in abstract and very colorful forms, as you can see. We met Antonio 6 or 7 years ago, and we've been working with him ever since. We have the largest collection of his paintings outside of a corporate collection. I believe we have as many as 20 at the gallery.
Wonderful, man. Absolutely wonderful.
Really is. Another very interesting thing we brought this evening is our 16th century Limoges plaque that was probably from the workshop of Pierre Raymond. Pierre Raymond was instrumental in learning oil and enamel on copper objects. He was employed by the churches, so most of his work are identifying the Crusades and things like that. And these would have been probably one of a set of 6 that would have adorned one of the very important churches, both in Rome as well as in Paris at the time. He was a French artist, but most of his things went up over the Alps into the Mediterranean area, both Italy as well as some of the important palaces in Spain. But it's a very particular, if you look at the brightness and the vivid form here, I don't know if you can see this, but if you look at the vivid colors, they never had any of this bright colors before. This is from the Baroque period. So you think about this is just post-medieval, before the Renaissance, and the colors are as strong as they were done the day they were done. These were baked in a kiln, essentially, to achieve this color process. And if you look at the package on this, this is the original package from that period, came to us from a very important local collection. And this is another object which will be featured in our January sale at the Sarasota State Auction.
I love it when I listen to you talking to people when they bring things in, because you always say, now, if you're emotionally attached to it, then keep it. I love it the way you have great relationships with all the people that come into the store. They do love you.
It's hard. I always tell them, I don't want to take your memories from you. I only want to sell the object for you, but you can always have your memories. We try to remind them of that.
And then we have art in there from people from the Holocaust, for instance. We have pieces of artwork in there from people that survived the Holocaust.
We do, and in fact, one particular painting, which is coming up for sale, he was a Holocaust survivor. The Smithsonian Institute is doing a big exhibition of his work. He was working in sand and painting, doing sort of a three-dimensional collages and things, and we have a beautiful abstract of an angel by the artist, and we've had a lot of interest in it, an awful lot of interest.
Yeah. I saw a couple of pictures in there today from one of the famous painters. In fact, he was known to be the fastest painter in the whole wide world. Katz with a Z.
Morris Katz.
Yeah, we have his work in there.
That's changing gears a little bit. He's in the Guinness Book of World Records, known as the fastest artist. He was painting on a small scale and with a palette knife.
Yeah.
And we have paintings ranging from the 16th century to, as you know, the 20th century.
And then furniture too, like this desk right here that you're sat with. This is for sale, I take it.
Absolutely. This is
This
is a bureau plat, and these are bronze mounts that you see here, inlaid checkerboard inlays with a leather top. This was a very typical piece in a Parisian apartment or chateau in the 18th century. The typical Louis legs that you see, but heavily adorned with all the bronze caps on this one. Beautiful object, easy to get under. It's a great writing surface. Has a serpentine shape to it, and again, that cabriole leg terminating in a little scrolled foot. Very attractive piece of furniture. Very attractive piece of furniture.
And the chair that you're sat in? The throne?
The throne chair I'm currently seated in. Carved putti and cherubs throughout. Carved on the fist, carved on the stretcher, carved behind me in the crest. Heavily adorned piece that you would see in the 16th and 17th centuries in Italy. These were Medici-style carving pieces from that period. Tacked with a leather piece on this one. This would be typically in the $3,000 to $4,000 range at our shop.
Wow, amazing. Absolutely amazing. So if anybody's got any questions at all, they can just phone you at the store. Andrew's out and about each and every day looking at and buying estates.
We do house calls daily. My job is to go from home to estate and give them general values on their things. If some of the things work for our auction, we can try the auction. If some of the things would do better performance-wise at the shop, we let them know as well. Typically, they start with photos. We have an email. People will send us photos to our email. We'll contact them and ask them what they'd like to do. Is this something you'd like to buy, like us to buy outright? Would you like to consign it? Depending on how I think it'll perform, we give them different vehicles which I think they could use. It could either be our retail shop, we could buy them outright, or we can sign them for a future auction that has that it would fit into a particular auction.
Absolutely. Because you are the #1 antique dealer in Sarasota.
We certainly are the largest downtown antique shop. We're located in historic Burns Court. Again, you know the name Owen Burns. He was very instrumental in the building of the Ringling Mansion, Carezan, or the House of John, also the Venetian word for the House of John. And this was, a lot of things here in Sarasota have been in that Venetian Gothic style, which was the Mediterranean style that was very popular in the turn of the century, as sort of a Mediterranean revival style that was done. And John and Mabel Ringling really brought that to the forefront. They hired artists and sculptors from Italy to come over and really recreate the villas that they were seeing in Italy, put it here in Sarasota, and really put Sarasota on the map. Then again, developed the St. Armand's Circle, and again, adorned all the areas with Ringling statuary, and really gave this place a real artsy feel over the years.
And you've had antique stores here in Sarasota for a very long time.
Over 20 years, I've been an antique dealer here in Sarasota with various galleries on St. Armand's Circle, downtown Sarasota. We really like downtown. We very much like the Burns Court area. It's a slightly quieter part of downtown, but has all sorts of fascinating people that come through. And it's been a great boost for our auction as well.
And the Asian, lots of people love the Asian, like this statue behind us right here.
The polychrome statue behind me is a Kuan Yin 19th century polychrome statue. Asian pieces in general have really gotten popular. The amount of money coming out of Southeast Asia now, acquiring their antiques, bringing them back into their country, it's totally changed. When China was a sleeping giant, we were all buying things and they were exporting things out of China. Now they're bringing things back into China, and even Chinese Americans that have done well here, they really like the Chinese fashion and taste.
Because we actually have people in the auctions just coming specifically to buy the things to take them back.
Absolutely, strictly Asian buyers. In fact, they bring some of our premium prices. We had a cloisonne box about 6 months ago in one of our auctions, opened up for $100. Got hammered down for $26,000 plus the buyer's premium. So that $100 box became $32,000 at our auction. And that's what you get by having a global audience. That's the whole idea behind the auction. Instead of selling it here locally, you were able to put that in front of the world and find a worldwide marketplace, and these things bear what the market is willing to bear. And as long as it's shippable and logistically shippable, these things find their way into all sorts of different countries.
That is a fun day, the auction day.
It's exciting.
I love it. We do lunch, we do breakfast, we have a great crowd, and we're taking calls from all over the world.
We have a live phone bank during the auction, so there are multiple ways to leave bids during our auction. You can come, sit with us live, leave bids. You can bid from the computer at home. You can leave a bid if you might be out of town for the weekend. You can come by the auction and leave a verbal bid with us. We can also phone you during the auction. So it's exciting. There are bids coming in from all different platforms. We have these live auctioneer platforms and Invaluable, and they have millions of subscribers. And so when at the same time we're doing our auction, we have access to millions of subscribers that are real collectors, so you can find that end user that you're always looking for to get a premium.
And it's so amazing the prices. You can find real great deals.
Indeed.
I have friends that come that are amazed because if there's no price on it for sale, you can get some really...
Sure. Yeah, people come to the auction and they register with us at the auction. That gives them a bidder paddle. That allows them to bid live during the auction. It's a very simple process. They come in, we get some of their information that allows them to bid during the auction, and they get comfortable with the process. A lot of these objects are... you need a little background on some of these things to be bidding. We always tell everyone, come in, research your objects first. But yeah, there are fantastic deals to be. There are always those few objects that get overlooked, and if you're in the audience,
you can get a great
you might go
deal.
home with a great object that day.
I love it. We'll be walking around with a small painting, and all of a sudden I'll hear you say like $30,000, and I'm like, oh my, what am I holding here?
They don't all bring that kind of money,
but some do. I mean,
certain ones.
Yeah, it just amazes me.
It's surprising, and they're all the biggest names. These are major Fortune 500 CEOs. It gives us access to museum collections, and you'd be amazed the email addresses we get. These are their personal email addresses of people that would be very hard to access, but there's a real strong collector community out there, and I can give you a who's who of names of people we've sold to over the years. It's just an exciting process.
And then another thing you do is you're away quite a lot. You
Oh,
go
sure.
to lots of shows.
We travel
tell
for
us about your
shows.
shows, because you take all the trucks, you fill them up, the boys go off, you meet them there, and then you bring everything back.
A big part of the process is, in order to have an aggressive buying, you have to have some aggressive selling tactics as well. So we do shows out of the state of Florida as well. In the summer, when things are slower in Sarasota, we travel Aspen, East Hampton, New York, Baltimore, Maryland, major trade shows, some of the most important trade shows in the country. And that also gives us access to new collectors, new buyers. We can promote the auction. We can promote our galleries here in town. And of course, in Florida in the summers when things quiet down, they heat up in the Northeast and we head up that way.
I was just thinking about your latest inquiry into Houdini's gates.
Houdini's gates, I tell you.
They're coming to Sarasota, I hear.
It's a very interesting collection. The family that I'm acquiring these from, they lived in California for many years, and this is part of another Houdini estate where he lived and stayed for many months when he was in the West Coast.
Yeah.
These gates were at the very front of the home that were there, and these were brought down to the south here. They've been for the past 30 years in an estate in Georgia, of all places. Wow. And I was contacted recently by this woman who told us she'd like to use the auction. She thinks the auction would be a perfect way to find that end user for these gates. And very likely going to be a museum who's interested in magic or something like that.
Oh, wow.
They're really fantastic, high quality pieces. And they're 9 or 10 feet in height. So these are not your average sized gates. Really exciting.
And the auction house is on Lockwood Ridge Road, Bee Ridge, down there by Detweiler's, the Dollar Movie Theatre.
Yes.
Which everybody knows.
I always tell everybody the auction is right off of University. Easy
Yeah.
to find, one of the main thoroughfares in Sarasota. We typically do auctions Saturdays and Sundays, so it's easy for the people to attend, 11 to 4, 11 to 5, depending on how long the auction is. It's a catered event. We try to have everybody comfortable, and we have a lot of fun with the auction.
Yeah, because it's Florida, it's very relaxed. It's
Oh, yes.
flip-flops and shorts.
Absolutely.
It's not,
And we want to really make an event out of it, so everyone's comfortable. And the fresh objects that are coming out of the state, it's not like a lot of the auctions you've seen before, where we don't sell collectibles and things like that. We're really selling to that keen collector that has a little better, looking for a little better quality object. Some of the lesser things we send to other auction houses, but we prefer to handle objects, 500 to 1,000 on up to 50 or 100,000.
wow, it's amazing.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Amazing. And some of the pictures that they resurface, you can own a painting. You recently had a wonderful story. You and your wife had a wonderful
I can't tell you how many times
painting.
I've had a painting that sells to a client, and 15, 20 years later it comes back to us. And we were at a large trade show recently and was offered a few paintings. They were offered to me as fresh, which I thought was quite funny considering I'd sold them 15 or 20 years ago. But yes, these things have a way of coming around. And some of these pieces we've sold to collections, and for whatever reason they're moving or they don't have room for it anymore. We're always happy to buy these things back. So it's really an open kind of a policy that we have at our galleries. If you buy from us and you tire of the object, bring it back. We can always get them into something else. We're happy to take these objects back. They're really hard to come by. So we're really pleased with the selection that we have down at the gallery downtown right now. It's ranging from again, contemporary art to early Ming Dynasty pieces.
It's more like a museum, isn't it? When the people come through it, they're just amazed because there's something for everybody.
It is. And we don't like to use the word museum in the retail business because we want to sell these things. But in general, it has that appearance of a very early collection of objects. And people are really blown away by it. And they really enjoy it, and they share stories that they have. And it's really a social thing. People come by the shop sometimes just to discuss pieces they have in their own collection. And it's the beginning of the conversation that we're always trying to have about arts and, both performing arts and visual arts in Sarasota. It's a constant topic. You go to any coffee house in Sarasota and you'll find some literati that wants to talk about art and antiques here in Sarasota. So we have a lot of fun with it.
And we also have an in-house artist in
Indeed.
the store, which is
We
fun.
do indeed.
Yeah.
She's a Ringling
Vicky.
graduate and does custom painting and does certain bespoke pieces for people that want particular portraits of their pets and things. But she also does beautiful surrealist pictures, and she's a great abstract artist.
Yeah, absolutely. Love it. We have great fun. It's a great place to be. Seriously, come on down.
We've got a few other objects here. I don't know if you are that familiar with these. Maybe, Jenna, you can show that to the camera.
You see that right there?
This is a Ushapti figure. These are Ushapti Egyptian figures, and these are buried with the dead, and they're meant to take the person that's been buried into the afterlife, and they believe if they're buried with enough of these pieces, their spirit will be brought into the afterlife. And so upon many tombs that have been opened up in Egypt, they find these different quality Ushapti figures. This is a rather good sized one. Sometimes you find them in a turquoise glaze as well. These are honest pieces that came to us from the Dr. Roy Chapman Andrews collection.
Oh, wow.
We acquired in Carmel, California about a year or two ago. Dr. Roy Chapman Andrews was the director of the American Museum of Natural History. He was probably one of the most prominent archaeologists of his time. Spent a lot of his life in China, Mongolia, had interests in Egyptian. He was an Egyptologist of sorts as well. And this collection was one of the largest collections we've ever acquired.
So we were talking about this earlier. If these are buried with the dead, how do they resurface?
It's a sort of a dark secret how some of these are acquired. I suspect in Egypt, some of these were tomb looted. And there was a time, you know, Nasser City is known just outside of Cairo. And this is where a lot of the workers lived, and they found their way. So you wouldn't find these on a marketplace in Cairo because that might be a little bit too obvious.
Yeah.
However, you do find these at little markets that surface, and a lot of them are brought out for the tourist trade. Today, unfortunately, you can go there and find these. They're reproductions of these, but these are honest originals that came from that collection.
So we've got Thanksgiving coming up, and that's when the next auction's going to be. What's the date for the next auction?
The next auction comes November 25th and 26th. That is 11 to 4 o'clock, both Saturday and Sunday. Our Saturday sale will mostly be jewelry, silver, and some furniture. The Sunday sale is mostly fine art that typically covers the majority of our collection at the sale itself.
So if family's in town, it would be a great thing to do for a
It's Thanksgiving
family
weekend,
day out.
actually. Yeah,
Yes.
So Thanksgiving's always on a Thursday. We
Yeah.
decided to do it on Saturday and Sunday. Everyone would be off work and would have that chance.
Yeah. So we'll be here each month talking about different things that you've
We will
acquired
indeed,
throughout the
and we
period.
welcome our Facebook viewers to like our Facebook page and come see us next time. We're going to be doing this monthly, talking about what's it worth and bringing in objects that people have interest in either selling or getting some verbal appraisals on.
And we're going to be out and about on location too, right?
We will take this show to location. My understanding is we'll be doing live shots from the auction. We may do some other things like maybe live shots from in front of the Ringling Museum and other art-related areas here where we can bring the cameras to, and it'll just get people more involved in a lot of the arts and all sorts of programs here in Sarasota.
Absolutely. Come and join us. There is never a dull moment at Sarasota Trading.
Absolutely.
Right, we'll see you next time.
Come
Thank
522 South Pineapple Avenue. Thank you both.